Our story begins, and we see, on a bustling day, a 99-floored black tower suddenly appeared in the middle of Gangnam. It wasn't just Gangnam, a total of 100 towers showed up at the same time, in the cities of different countries including Korea. Each country investigated the tower that showed up on their land, but the only thing they found out was that the tower was 990 meters high, and it was made up of an incredibly strong material which couldn't be perforated even using nuclear bombs. Then one day, people started to come out of the tower through the wall. Then we see a lot of reporters asking questions to those people who came out of the tower. One of the reporters says, "How did you get inside the tower?" The guy who came out of the tower says that, "I suddenly got sucked into a black hole one day, and when I woke up, I was on the tower's first floor." Then all the news channel starts to talk about that, how a black hole appeared and sucked humans and took them to the first floor of the tower. All the people started calling those people awakened people. When those awakened people are taken to the first floor, they have to pick one role, either a magician or a warrior. Monster starts to show up on the second floor. Every time the awakened people clear a floor, they get different rewards, and with a high chance, they get this ticket.
What is that ticket for?
People who are awakened can get in and out of the tower freely. However, ordinary people need this ticket to get inside the tower. Still, only the awakened can climb up the tower.
Do you think people would go in such a scary tower with a lot of monsters?
We are sure of one thing. Going up to the tower will get you money. Then we see a shopkeeper lady watching news, and the news reporter is saying that the Awakened Association has announced that the price of Black Tower tickets will be increasing from 150 million won to 200 million starting next week. Then a guy comes and says, "Excuse me," while the lady is saying, "The world is going crazy. People are risking their lives just to earn money, but they want 200 million won for that. Don't you think it's too much?" Young man, we see our MC's face, and he says, "Haha, you are right." Our MC's name is Park Sejun, and he is 26 years old. Sejun is going home while calculating his money, and he saved total of 12 million won. Sejun sighs and says, "When will I be able to buy the ticket?" He stops and say, "Nah, the question is, will I be able to buy the ticket?" Sejun is tired from all of this, but he motivates himself by saying, "Don't give up, Park Sejun. Keep up the high spirit. There must be some way to save more money." Then Sejun thinks to himself that he bought these vegetables for a low price, and he thinks of planting and growing those vegetables and selling them to get some extra money. Then he will be able to buy the ticket and go to the tower and get rich. And after getting rich, he will propose to his K-pop crush. While he was fantasizing about all of this, a black hole opened behind him. Sejun sees it and says, "This is the portal that sucked in the first generation of Awakens." Sejun gets excited and says, "I, Park Sejun, am ready to risk my life to climb up the tower. Black hole, take me in." But suddenly the black hole starts to get smaller and smaller, and Sejun gets in shock and says, "Hey, why are you getting smaller? Take me in right now." Then Sejun runs toward the black hole while saying, "No, I will not let this opportunity go away." And he jumps into the black hole, and he hits the ground. He asks himself, "Did I get into the tower?" Sejun gets excited and says, "Fancy chandeliers and marbles. The first floor plaza full of equipment and potions." And then he realized that he is in a cave, all alone. He starts to shout while saying, "What the hell? Where the hell am I?" Then we see a tower, and inside of that tower there is a crystal ball, and it's shining. A dragon comes and says, "Crystal ball detected a change in the tower." Dragon gets angry and says, "I have to find the cause because I'm the manager of this tower." Start of the chapter 2, we see a reporter asking awakened people about how the tower looks from inside. Then, the awakened replies with, something like a very spacious and shiny place. There are a lot of different items in the tower you can buy. Then we see Sejun absolutely scared. Sejun says to himself that there is no exit. Sejun has looked every corner of this cave, but he can't find an exit. Sejun says that there is no training ground, no store, no nothing. Sejun even shouted for help, but there was no response. Then Sejun's phone starts to ring, and Sejun says, "Oh, it's already been one day." Sejun gets hungry and he opens up whatever he bought from that store. He has 1 bottle of water, 27 cherry tomatoes, 10 green onions, 7 pumpkin sweet potatoes, and lastly an washed apple. Sejun starts eating the apple, but it's not enough. So he eats a sweet potato and he thinks to himself, "So tasty, this chewing texture, crunching feeling with a sweet taste. It's way more delicious than I expected." While he was thinking about all of this, some of the sweet potato gets stuck in his throat. He starts to drink the water. After drinking that water, he lays down and says, "That was a good meal. How long am I supposed to stay here?" Sejun is worried because he knows that he will not be able to survive many days with this amount of food. Sejun thinks to himself, "If I am not rescued, I might become a mummy." Sejun gets up and starts to motivate himself by saying, "No, I don't want to die like this. This is a tower. It was my dream to get in here. I can't just die like this." Sejun sees the apple that he just ate. He digs a small hole and plants the apple seeds there. He takes the green onions and separates the green parts so he can eat them later while planting the root parts. He also plants 3 tomatoes and 2 sweet potatoes, leaving the rest as food. After doing all of that, Sejun says, "I will do anything to survive." While he was looking at the onions, a loud sound came from outside the cave. Sejun panics and says, "What's going on?" Sejun thinks that it was a monster, but reassures himself, "They said monsters didn't exist on the first floor." Sejun looks up at the sky and sees a blue moon. The moment he sees it, he starts to hear a loud sound. The sound is so loud that his body starts to hurt. Then he sees a shadow of something. Sejun looks up and sees a dragon flying in the sky. He looks at the dragon and says, "A dragon. So beautiful." Sejun faints while saying this. Meanwhile, the vegetables he planted have small blue sparks shining around them. The next day, Sejun is still sleeping. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing. Because of this sound, he wakes up. Sejun takes his phone and says, "For how long was I down?" He checks the date on his phone and shouts because it has been 2 days. Sejun stands up, but his back starts to hurt. So he just sits down while saying, "So tired. My whole body hurts." Then he notices something strange. He sees something that looks like a tree. Sejun looks at it and says, "Isn't this a green onion?" Sejun thinks to himself, "Can a green onion grow this big in 2 days?" Then Sejun thinks that maybe it's because of the tower. He gets excited, believing that maybe the other seeds have grown as well. He checks them, and they have also grown. Sejun is so excited that he starts to count all the plants. There are a total of 52. After counting them, he realizes that the smaller plants won't get enough sunlight because of the shadow of the green onions. So he starts harvesting them. After harvesting, he wonders what they taste like. He tries one, but the onion is so hot that his whole mouth starts to burn. He runs to the pond and starts splashing water on his face. After splashing water, he says, "Wow, it was way spicier than the original taste. Weirdly, it doesn't hurt my stomach." Sejun decides that if he wants to eat something spicy, he will just eat the onions. After that, Sejun sits and starts to eat. While he is eating, let me explain the tower's day system. In the tower, the sun doesn't set, but occasionally, the sun gets hidden behind the moon. This event is called the blue moon. Sejun knows about the blue moon and says, "But the blue moon phenomenon only happens on the 10th floor. I thought I was somewhere on the 1st floor, and that dragon, that wasn't an illusion." Sejun starts thinking, 10 years ago, when the tower appeared, one of the major guilds, Phoenix Guild, made an achievement of clearing the 37th floor. The information about the 30th to 37th floors is top secret, but a lot of details can be found on YouTube. The 2nd to 10th floors have skeleton soldiers. The 11th to 20th floors have goblins. The 21st to 30th floors have orcs. According to some rumors, there are spider monsters on the 31st floor, but they never mentioned anything about a dragon. Sejun starts thinking, maybe I'm lost on a floor that even top-ranked hunters haven't reached yet. Suddenly, something like water hits Sejun's face. He sits and thinks it's raining, but he remembers that the weather in the tower is usually good. Then he looks up and sees something moving. He gets shocked, thinking it's a monster, but then we see that it's just a rabbit. Sejun sees the rabbit and thinks, is this rabbit a monster? The rabbit jumps, and Sejun runs to catch it, but the rabbit lands on his head before jumping to the ground. The rabbit goes toward the onions while Sejun is still trying to understand what is happening. This cannot be a normal rabbit, he thinks. Then the rabbit points at the onions. Sejun says, "Want to eat it?" He cuts some onion and gives it to the rabbit. The rabbit gets very happy and starts eating. Sejun watches and thinks, the onions grew that much. Looks like I have to harvest them twice a day. While Sejun is thinking about the onions, the rabbit suddenly shouts, and we see another rabbit jumping into the cave. The second rabbit lands with a superhero pose, then gives some farming equipment to the first rabbit. Sejun looks at the second rabbit and realizes that it is a female. He asks, "Are you perhaps married?" And both rabbits say, I guess they're trying to say yes.